MPT to serve all of our diverse communities and is made possible by the generous support of our members. Thank you.
Connecting Marylanders to their government. This is State Circle.
Good evening. Welcome to State Circle. Coming up this week, a Maryland college's music video going viral on YouTube and how one hospital decided to suture together its own protective gear. But we begin with an update on Maryland's battle with the coronavirus. The state's death toll from the disease stands at 1,792. 339 people have lost their lives in the last week. That compares with 355 deaths the previous week. The number of coronavirus patients in Maryland hospitals today dropped below 1,500 for the first time in over 2 weeks. Governor Hogan citing improving data for his decision this week to partially relax his stay-at-home order.
Retail stores in Maryland may reopen with up to 50% capacity and with strong social distancing, masking, and other safety precautions, and while continuing to strongly encourage curbside pickup and delivery. Manufacturing may resume operations in a safe manner which protects the health of their employees, with guidelines encouraging multiple shifts to limit the number of people working at the same time, limiting proximity of employees, and other safety precautions. Some personal services, including barbershops and hair salons, may reopen at up to 50% capacity by appointment only and with appropriate health and safety guidelines.
The governor is leaving it up to local governments whether to go along, and the state's largest counties are not.
Personally, I think he went farther than he probably should have right now. I think he should have waited till the cases were at least on a downturn for some period of time so that you knew that you had more control over the virus than we have right now. We will change the rules as soon as the science says that we can change the rules.
9 deaths from COVID-19 per day. This is an astonishing number. 9 COVID-19 deaths per day still in Prince George's County. And what this means is that this has quickly become, in the 2 months plus that we have experienced it, the leading cause of death in Prince George's County. So needless to say, Prince George's County is not ready to go to phase 1, and that we are at this point taking advice from our public health officials.
Manufacturing, we're comfortable with what the governor has proposed. Retail, the governor proposed opening all retail up to 50% of capacity. And when we look at capacity, we look at what the fire marshal says, and those are some pretty high numbers. And so we're not comfortable with that. We believe that would create a spike. But what we do feel we can do is to allow retail businesses to open if they choose to for curbside pickup.
However, it's another story in Ocean City where hotels and the boardwalk have reopened, though with reminders about social distancing. Our Sue Copen spoke today with Mayor Rick Meehan.
It's going to be a challenge, but I think most people understand that individually they have to take some responsibility, and they're going to have to do what they need to do to comply with social distancing and actually being able to be here.
Is there a hammer that you have to make certain that folks comply?
You know, it's really based on compliance. Yes, we can, if in fact somebody ignores an order, or creates any additional problems. But, really people just have to do the right thing. If they don't do the right thing, we're not going to be here. And I think everybody realizes that. You'll see police cars patrolling the boardwalk. You'll see the bike officers up here. You'll see the horse patrol up here. It's to remind people what they're supposed to be doing. It's to just try to keep people separated as much as possible. The boardwalk is a narrow walkway, so, it's very difficult to keep everybody apart. But when you're at ground level and you look around, you can really see how people are attempting and doing their very best to stay socially distanced.
Many hospitals continue struggling with finding enough protective equipment for staff. Our Charles Robinson tells us about a hospital that is taking the idea of doing for yourself to the next level.
Tell me what you were doing and how this has changed what you're doing.
Well, I actually work for Krieger Eye. We're ophthalmology practice, and so basically my role as a technician is to take patients back and get their exam started for the physician. A lot of times we do diagnostic testings, and so as far as this is way different than what I'm used to doing.
Michelle Fauble, like many of those on this line, are stitching together patterns created by Baltimore's own Under Armour. Yes, there's been a learning curve.
This is the broken down version of how to go through putting threads to the machine, sewing machines. It shows where just to control the speed, how to cut it, how to put the bobbins in. That's the breakdown of it.
If you went back 6 weeks or so, this was an empty, unfinished space. And on or around March 30th was the first day that it opened for operations. I don't have up to the hour numbers, but over 200,000 of these masks have been made here. Probably close to 20,000 of the gowns that you see in the area. And in a separate facility that's also very similar, Lifebridge folks working very hard at a place called BSP across town, they've made over 15,000 face shields.
As you can imagine, Lifebridge Health goes through an inordinate amount of personal protective gear. By bringing it in-house means they don't have to go to outside sources.
We burn through about 6,000 gowns a day in all of our Lifebridge facilities. We burn through about 1,000 N95 masks a day, and that's with conservation efforts and a recycling program. Face mask, like many of my partners are wearing, those were anywhere from 9,000 to 10,000 of those a day.
Watching the process was Baltimore County Executive Johnny Oleski.
This is a shining example of employees worrying about their colleagues. And so Northwest, I think, is really setting the standard for how we care for each other, how we come up with creative solutions, and we're willing to pivot and do things differently.
According to Lifebridge officials, this is an example of finding a simple solution to a complex problem. In Randallstown, I'm Charles Robinson for State Circle.
Legislative committees held a 9-hour virtual hearing this week to investigate problems with the state's unemployment system. More than 500,000 Marylanders have filed for unemployment.
The issue I'm having is the communication. There's no way to communicate with unemployment unless you wait for a letter to come in the mail. I have been unemployed since March 30th. I live by myself. I'm a single person. I have used what savings I have to keep my bills paid up. I have not received one dime from unemployment yet.
This is very, very stressful. I mean, I've worked 36 years prior to Macy's somewhere else, and I've never seen such frustration and anxiety that sits upon individuals.
I've worked since I was 14 years old. And I'm just asking for a little help to get through this tough time until I can go back to my job. Please help me.
Joining us for the political roundtable this week, Senator Mary Beth Carrozza, Republican from the Lower Eastern Shore, and Senator Jill Carter, a Democrat from Baltimore. Thanks to both of you for being with us. Let's start with the governor's decision on a partial reopening of the state. Your thoughts on broadly his handling, his decisions so far, and Senator Carrozza first, whether this is the right decision.
Right. Well, I want to just, first of all, thank the governor and thank everybody that's been working on the COVID-19 recovery. And we have the same goal of a safe recovery and reopening. I think the governor's announcement this week, shining the light on a local approach, allowing local jurisdictions to move forward or not move forward is the right approach. I know we here in Ocean City and on the shore have been working on our safe recovery and reopening protocols since the end of March, and are ready to move forward, with a safe reopening.
Senator Carter, your thoughts?
First of all, thanks for having me. And I want to applaud Marylanders because I think Marylanders have really stood up and stood out and been wonderful through this this very trying process. And I think Governor Hogan has done a very good job, especially in the beginning, with the protocols and the aggressive executive order for staying at home and shutting Maryland down. It was necessary. But, you know, we still have, while we still have high numbers of people testing, we have very low testing. And so I think because of the inadequate amount of testing, we don't really have enough information to feel comfortable with a reopening. I am glad that local jurisdictions get to make their decisions, and I'm glad that the mayor of Baltimore has decided that we're not yet ready. You know, in Baltimore City, we've only tested 3% of the population. And so because of the inadequate testing, the essentially zero contact tracing, we simply are not yet ready to reopen.
Senator Carosa, I mean, this looks really different depending where you are. If you're in Montgomery County, they have, you know, 4 hospitals with intensive care units that are basically full, and it doesn't look like the problem's getting any better right now. Where you are, I mean, parts of your district have a serious problem with this.
So we've had really good coordination at the local level with our hospitals, PRMC in Salisbury, AGH in Berlin. We're on calls every day looking at our numbers, and we are in a different situation than in other more populated parts of the state. And so that's why, you know, this coordination that we've had at the local level and making sure that these protocols are in place and that they've been coordinated with our local health officer should put everybody at ease. Again, I also want to emphasize self-responsibility. This is on each one of us. It's on each Marylander. You know, some Marylanders are going to opt to, in our area, they may still stay home because of their age and underlying conditions. Others are going to, they're ready to go, whether it's opening their business or going out for an activity, but it's on each one of us to exercise self-responsibility. I know that our employers are, you know, concerned and putting in all the PPE for their employees and want guests to be comfortable. But it's very important that this first stage goes well, and it's on each one of us.
Is there a concern, Senator Carter, that a lot of people from, you know, the Baltimore area are going to head down to Ocean City now and maybe relax social distancing and come back to your neighborhoods sick?
Yeah, that's a real concern, especially since, you know, there's already very much an enthusiasm amongst a lot of people to go down to the ocean. Young people that I've talked to and seen on social media are very excited. They're already ready to party starting at 5 o'clock tonight. And while they may deem themselves at lower risk, they are still you know, connecting and interconnecting with everyone else. And so it's a real concern. You know, I also want to stress that I talked a little bit about Baltimore, but we are one state. And while some jurisdictions are not impacted quite as heavily, and it may be easier to coordinate things because of the smaller population, the smaller number of businesses, I think that we have to keep in mind that all across Maryland, we've only tested at about 46% of what the national standard has suggested that we test at. And so again, the testing and the contact tracing is still not at a level where we should be comfortable. Now, that being said, you know, we are just going to be cautiously optimistic that this weekend doesn't set us back and continue to move forward with hopefully ramping up our testing.
Before I run out of time, I want to get your comments from both of you on the situation with processing unemployment filings. Obviously, you feel for the employees of the Labor Department who are dealing with this avalanche of people looking for benefits, and you feel for the people who need the benefits and they need them soon. What are you hearing from your constituents?
Well, I'll go first with that. Number one, you know, since the early adjournment, we as senators and delegates have been back in our districts working constituent service nonstop. And whether it's helping people with their unemployment claims or those who have applied for small business loans or grants, we are seeing them through that process, recognizing that so many of our constituents, whether it's those seeking unemployment, those unemployment benefits that they deserve, and we need to get to them as soon as possible, and also the small business operators that have been shut down that have applied for small business grants and loans. So that has been my top priority, pretty much 24/7, to assist individuals. And as far as we will see them through the entire process. I did get some good news this morning. I had some texts with some people that we were helping with unemployment with those funds coming through. So when you hear some good news that after that long wait and they received their funds, you know that it makes you want to double down even more and continue to see each individual constituent through that process. And that's what I think all of us are committed to doing.
The legislature had a hearing the other day, and over 1,100 people signed up to testify. And it was disclosed that of the over 600,000 applicants, that about 35% still had received absolutely no money at all since March. And it's a real concern because these people have been unable to pay their rent, pay their mortgage, pay their bills, and they are falling into a hole that it's going to be all of our responsibility to help them get out of. I'm very concerned about that. And another thing that is a real concern is the statistics have shown that particularly minority and African-American owned businesses have been unable to benefit from the grants and the loans that have been made available due to various obstacles, various things, whether it's due to credit status or bond capacity or various things, they've been unable to qualify. And so while we're excited about the reopening for businesses and help them get on their feet, we're going to need to dig in and do more for African-American and other minority-owned businesses.
Senator Carter, Senator Carrozza, thank you very much for your time. And a reminder that the best site for official information is coronavirus.maryland.gov. The state shutdown has been especially difficult for many small businesses. Our Sue Copeland reports on one business that found a way to turn things around.
When it comes to wearing Maryland pride, Towson-based Route 1 Apparel likely has what you're looking for, from T-shirts to shoes to scarves to sunglasses. The company is now in its 10th year, started by Allie Von Paris while she was a business student paying her way through school at the University of Maryland in College Park. All it took was the closing of a popular local bar and the loss of her waitress job in her junior year to get things started.
I ended up making a support jersey for the bar, Turtle Survivor, Barely Remembered, Never Forgotten. I partnered up at that time with a friend of mine, and we launched it, and I kind of managed all the operations. And I thought I'd sell 30. I ended up pre-selling about 600 of them.
Route 1 Apparel became a reality soon after that.
I named it Route 1 because the bar was on Route 1, but I also saw it as a name that was expandable. And so I just proceeded to continue to make Maryland-themed products at that time.
Thanks to a number of licensing deals, her product line is now in the thousands.
You know, we got University of Maryland first, and then Natty Bow and Old Bay, and we do a lot with McCormick in general. So we went from, that one product, that one jersey, to about 3,000 products now available on the site.
But the state-ordered shutdown in March took a toll on the company.
We lost about 80% of our business in a time around Maryland Day when we're usually flourishing.
Von Paris says things started to turn around when they came up with a T-shirt playing on the pandemic.
We launched the Wash Your Hands shirt, and the Wash Your Hands shirt was just our first, kind of poking a little humor into the way Marylanders speak and, focusing on the times that we're in right now, adding a little humor or joy to an otherwise abysmal situation.
And face masks followed, with a shout out about the product from the governor at a recent press conference.
I had no idea that he was going to be doing that, but it was extremely humbling. I mean, it's just been crazy.
Von Paris says they're now having their busiest sales month in the company's history. And the company is giving back. donating hundreds of fanny packs and thousands of face masks to medical personnel.
Just trying to help the community and just try to set that example for everyone else as much as I can.
Sue Copen for MPT News.
Continuing our conversations now with the candidates for mayor of Baltimore, our Nancy Amata spoke with Brandon Scott.
Brandon Scott, thanks so much for joining us. I want to begin with why you are the best candidate to become the next mayor of Baltimore City.
Thank you, Nancy, and thank you for having me. Listen, I represent the best future for Baltimore City, and we know that this is the most important election in the history of our city. It was that way before COVID-19, is definitely the case now. And what we need in our next mayor someone who's unafraid to do the right thing over the popular one, even if it costs them their re-election, someone who has a deep understanding from Baltimore City from the bottom up, which I am the only person in the race that can do that, but also someone that can bring the city together, someone that can be the transformational and generational change leadership that Baltimore is in desperate need of in order to set Baltimore on a path, and as we say in our campaign, a new way forward. I've worked and done the experience. You can look at my record of how I've been dealing with the issues and crises that Baltimore has faced before COVID-19 and during. I know city government inside and out, passing great policy like the Equity Assessment Program, passing the Transparency Act for Baltimore City, and continuously being able to do something that's very critical of the next mayor, and that's bring the entire city together.
You were the current city council president. When you entered the race in the fall, you said you wanted to bring a transformational change to a city struggling with high rates of crime and poverty. How do you plan on doing that?
Well, listen, first, Nancy, to understand that you have to live it. And you have to understand that I got into public service because I grew up in Park Heights, a neighborhood that was forgotten by my elected leaders, except for the weekend that Preakness was. And that changes you. When you see your first shooting before 10 years old, when you go to schools with no heat and air, lose friends, see that devastation consistently, it makes you make a decision if you can change that with your life. And clearly I chose that. I thought I could. But I would do that by transforming a city government structure, understanding that you cannot operate a city government in 2020 with a structure based in 1974 and thinking that you're going to be successful. There's only one candidate in this race that is running on creating a new Baltimore city government, making it more professional, bringing in a city administrator to run the day-to-day operations like is done in Baltimore and every other county around us, but also someone that understands gun violence from every standpoint, who will do the tough work of making sure that we are focusing on the violent repeat offenders and the flow of guns into Baltimore City, but also that we're doing something that we've never done in Baltimore in my lifetime, and that's investing in our public education, investing in neighborhoods and people to begin with, because we've been a city that's been investing in the failure of our young people instead of investing in its promise, and that's exactly what we will do in my administration.
How, if you were elected, how do you plan on addressing Baltimore's dwindling population? How are you going to convince people to stay in Baltimore and move into Baltimore?
First and foremost, you have to show everyone that Baltimore is a place where people want to come in again, where you can do the basic things. When you have a city government that's focused on reducing violent crime, when you have a city government that is doing the basic services right, when you have a city government that's investing in and allowing businesses and jobs to come here and thrive and create opportunity, then people will come. But you will not do that with this outdated, corruption-laden structure that they have today. That's why I'm currently trying to change the board of estimate structure. That's why under my leadership, the council has closed the Healthy Holly loophole, making it harder for people to get gifts, apply, and make our Office of Ethics now go underneath our Inspector General so they can actually do ethical investigations in the city of Baltimore. Doing all of those things and also showing that you can have competent leadership that will move people forward is how we will convince people that Baltimore, again, is a place to come and a place to stay and raise your families.
Last question here, and we have about 40 seconds, but as mayor, talk about what would be your coronavirus recovery plan.
Listen, yeah, actually, I was the first person in this race to talk about Corona and the coronavirus plan at all. You can actually see that on the city council's website right now. We know this is going to be tough. We are going to have to make tough decisions about what we're going to be budgeting, but what we will do at every step of the way is something that we did not do before, what they did in the Great Recession. I will not make those most in need of city services bear the brunt. We will not be closing rec centers. We will not be doing those things in my administration. We will be working to make sure that city government is more efficient, that we're getting every single dollar that's available from the federal and other governments, that we are reforming practices and policies so that we can continue to function, and also that we're investing directly into the neighborhoods, the people, and the businesses that need it the most coming out of COVID-19, because we know that COVID-19 just exacerbated and highlighted for many the inequities that I've been fighting for. Is why I have passed Baltimore's equity assessment program, because we know neighborhoods in Baltimore were left behind, not by happen chance, by design. And under my administration, they will be invested in the way they always should have been.
Brandon Scott, we thank you for your time.
All of our candidate interviews can be found at mpt.org/statecircle. And you can see our reporters' work during this crisis by visiting YouTube and searching MPT News. Monday on Direct Connection, we'll talk live with two heroes, frontline medical workers sharing their inside experiences. That's Monday, live at 7 on MPT. We leave you tonight with a sample of a music video that is raising the bar for what can be done with a webcam or a lot of webcams. The Morgan Choir, the famed Morgan Choir, performing We Are the World. Thanks for watching and have a good night.
This program was made by MPT to serve all of our diverse communities.
Programs on MPT are made possible by our members and the following.
Sun Nurseries, featuring locally grown annuals, perennials, fruiting plants, trees, and more. Sun Nurseries also offers landscape design and installation. Family owned in Howard County. More at sunnurseries.com.
Never before has this work been more important. 12 hours a day. It takes hundreds of volunteers and 42 delivery drivers. It takes unparalleled dedication and commitment to the mission. It takes heart.
Some things are inevitable. Diabetes doesn't have to be. 84 million American adults are living with